everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss my memories with the Xbox 360. A console that was a defining moment in gaming, for sure. There's definitely that 360 era gaming. I would say it was definitely, a lot of the over the shoulder type stuff when that happened. And of course, technically that started because of Resident Evil 4, but it really seemed to land on the 360, probably due to the fact that the 360 came out before the PS3 did, and then the PS3 was also $600 so it was like, well, 360 instead. Tons of games on the 360, tons of good times, tons of good memories. Not many memories from online. Ever since even when it was like first kicking off, and it was like, we got Modern Warfare 2 and stuff like that, which I do have, the only Call of Duty that I actually own. But even when that was the era of gaming, I was barely online. So a lot of my memories are still, multiplayer free. It was just like, hey, here's just the story of what's happening. And then there's a couple moments where it was like, hey, I got some Xbox Live and, have a little bit of fun online. But with the Xbox memories, I didn't get a 360 until the Elite ended up coming out. So I got the Elite, really like that. I think it looks cooler in black. I personally think that it's a better color scheme than the original, white version. I personally think the Elite is like the best version. I know that they have whatever the final version was. I don't even know what it was called, but basically like the 360 Mini. That's what I'm gonna call it, even though I know that's not what it's called, but I'm gonna call it the 360 Mini. I always thought that one looked weird, but it was like, hey, all consoles, well, most consoles at least, have that variation as time moves on, and it's like, hey, we got some updates here, we can do this, we can do that, and then you shrink it all down, and it's easier for us to put it in a smaller package. But I had the Elite. The Xbox 360 Elite, for those of you who might not actually even remember this, came with an HDMI port, which the original version did not. The original version did not come with an HDMI port. I believe it had component cables, and then the Elite had both. And that was also how I discovered that we had an HD TV at my house. I did not know that for years. We had like the big screen TV in the basement. I had no idea, and then we're talking like before the 360 came out, years before this. This is like when I was still on like my PS2 and all that stuff. Our TV was an HD TV. I don't know if my dad bought it because he knew it was HD. I highly doubt it. I think he just bought it because it was like, hey, it's a big screen TV. And he had like we had like a big TV. It was like the classic, like, oh, you bought like a giant big screen TV. We had the classic big effing TV. Like it might still be in that house right now. I don't even know anymore. But it was an amazing television, first of all. Picture-in-picture, I miss that. I don't know why TV stopped doing picture-in-picture. Like, I know at this point you're not really watching things on TV, so picture-in-picture is really just between whatever you might be streaming and then like, the other HDMI port or whatever. But still, I miss picture-in-picture. It was such a good time. But the 360, specifically the Elite, allowed me to realize, holy crap, I have an HD TV. We have, component cables, like you can HD gaming. Now, it was one of those things where it was like, all right, not as much of a difference as I could tell just from playing it normally. And games weren't really doing it like crazy at the time, so it was like, there's a bit of a difference. You can tell like just a little bit. Even when I got my PS3, it was kind of the same thing. It was like, I can tell a little bit that there's a difference. And I think it took a bit of time before it was like, you could really see the difference between standard definition and then high definition, like between the graphics. But playing on the 360 was definitely an interesting experience. I found some games on there that are some of my favorite games of all time. And I'm gonna kick it off with Alan Wake, because I've been saying this for over 13 years now, but play Alan Wake. It's been my pinned tweet. I don't even know how long it's been my pinned tweet. It's been my pinned tweet since before they even announced the remaster for the first game. I had like play Alan Wake. It's like my pinned tweet. So I love Alan Wake. It is one of my favorite games of all time. I love Remedy. They're actually my favorite developers of Max Payne. I'm sure at this point, a lot of people are more familiar with the Remedy name due to the fact that, Alan Wake 2 was pretty popular. I wish it sold more, but, hey, that's just a limitation thing. But fortunately, they're doing their thing. And Alan Wake is just really effing good. Like, and once again, this is Remedy. They did Max Payne 1 and 2. I love Max Payne. Like, back in the day, it was like, man, they already made some of my favorite games because I love the Max Payne games. And then it was like, okay, they're in the 360 era, and I see this game, and it's just like, okay, it seems interesting. I think I saw a review on XPlay, and they gave it like a 4 out of 5. And I was like, okay, let me check this game out. Let's see what this is. Let's see what Alan Wake is. And I remember playing it And I was like, okay, I love a good horror story. I'm definitely a big horror fan. So I was like, all right, this is cool. And I actually played it. I did it like in the perfect way, where because Remedy was like, hey, we're gonna connect a bunch of stuff together and just, make a bunch of references to Max Payne. It was super amazing because I had bought Max Payne on the 360 like Xbox Marketplace. So I played the first 2 games, and I was like, I haven't played Max Payne in forever. So I bought both the games on my 360, played through both of them, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, this is the people that made Max Payne. Like, I love Max Payne. They're doing like a horror thing. Let me check it out. 4 out of 5 on XPlay. That's a good recommendation. So I pick up the game. I'm playing it. I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is pretty cool. And then, I won't spoil it. If you have not played Alan Wake, please do. I know with Alan Wake 2, they're like, hey, you don't technically have to play the first game in order to play the second, which is very true, but you'll get a lot more context. It's an amazing game, so I highly recommend it. If you haven't played either, just get the remaster for Alan Wake 1. Make sure you buy Alan Wake's American Nightmare. It is canon, and it's a short little thing, but it's very fun. And then go into Alan Wake 2. But I played Max Payne. I played Max Payne 2. Went right into Alan Wake. And there's like, I think it's only in like the second or third chapter of the game where something very specific happens. And I was like, oh, there's like a bit of a, I can't even explain what it is, but there's a thing that happens based around an event. There's supposed to be like this thing called Deer Fest that's happening. And there's something that gets revealed about that thing. And I was like, I'm in. Like 100%, like it happened early on. And as soon as that happened, it instantly threw in like this insane mystery into the game. And I was like, yep, I'm all in on this. And I had an amazing time. I fell in love with that game. And to this day, it is one of my favorite games of all time. So play Alan Wake. Amazing, amazing experience. Where it was just like, oh, okay, Remedy people, let me check it out. Let me, it seems cool. Love horror thrillers. Let's see what happens. Fell in love with that game. And then it happened a second time because there was another beautiful, beautiful game on the Xbox 360 that came out that was like, oh, not a lot of fanfare. It just kind of came out. And I was like, oh, what's this thing? What's Dead Space? Saw the cover. It's just a severed hand. I was like, that seems right up my alley. I bought the game. I had no idea. It was just like, it seems scary. Seems like a horror thing. Seems like my thing. And I fell in love once again. And I played Dead Space. I'm pretty sure I played for like almost 12 hours straight. Like I played the whole game in one day. And then I started the game over again. And I just kept playing. Like I don't think I did like that very same day again. But I beat the whole game. And I was like, I love that. And then I just played the game again. And it was amazing. Like those 2 games were just like kind of out of nowhere. They didn't have a lot of fanfare when they first like popped up. It was, I think obviously Dead Space of course ended up having like a full-on trilogy, but both games when they first came out, even with the backing of EA for Dead Space, neither of those games were like really touted. I mean, obviously for Remedy, they definitely, had a certain process they had to go through, but it was really cool. And, they put it out themselves, and I forgot, well, it was Microsoft. It was actually Microsoft Studios, or Microsoft in general. Like Xbox published that first game. And then for Dead Space, it was obviously EA. But, they put out that game, and, Microsoft ended up helping them, Remedy, Microsoft helped Remedy. And, they put out a game and it was amazing. And the same happened for Dead Space. EA helped put that game out. And even though it was EA, there wasn't a ton of fanfare. And granted, this was, of course, back in the olden times of the Xbox 360. My information, of course, sometimes, a little bit, came from the internet. But for the most part, it was like, hey, I'm watching G4. Let's see what's on G4. Let's see what they talk about. Let's see what happens. And I don't know if they even reviewed Dead Space. I'm sure they did. I'd have to look up an old YouTube video of that, which you can watch videos of XPlay, by the way, if you didn't know that. For, old XPlay fans, you can watch like the original. There's like a YouTube channel that has like every episode on it. One day I plan on downloading like every episode just to make sure it's archived and somebody has them saved somewhere. But for Dead Space, it was the same experience as Alan Wake. I fell in love, and I was like, yep, I love this. I love everything about this, and everyone needs to know what this is. And so I love that franchise. I love both those games. Obviously, one franchise has more hope than another, or than the other, I should say, because Dead Space has not only died once, but twice, which is why I hate EA. Like, I cannot believe they had a franchise that was amazing, and then amazing again. Dead Space 2 is absolutely phenomenal. I love Dead Space 2. And I beat that game, well, technically, I beat that one on the PlayStation. But that was because they had, that was during that era of like, hey, if you get it here, you get exclusive this and exclusive that. And PlayStation was just like buying everything. I don't know if it was because they were losing money on the PS3 or what the deal was, but that was by the time, the Slim came out, and that's when I actually had a PS3. But for Dead Space 2 and 3, I ended up playing that on PlayStation. But the first one, the first one, in fact, was only on Xbox. I don't think they've ever put the original Dead Space game on anything but the Xbox 360. Even to this day, I think you can get it on PC. But other than that, it's like console-wise, it's still a 360 exclusive, if I'm not mistaken. And Alan Wake was the same way for a super long time, and then they actually got the rights back to it, after like nearly 13 years, which is why it took so long. And then we finally got, the remaster on other consoles. And we're still waiting to see what happens because Microsoft also still owns the rights to Quantum Break, which unfortunately that wasn't a 360 game. That came out when the Xbox One was the thing, and I never got an Xbox One. The 360 is my last Xbox console. It might not be my last one forever, but it is the last one that I own. So I have not had an Xbox console since the 360, and I think I've only played on them at like anime conventions and stuff. Like here and there, I've played on like an Xbox One, and that's about it. Like I don't think I even know anyone that actually owns one. Now that I really think about it, I don't think I know anybody that ever actually owned an Xbox One. Certainly not with the Kinect, that's for sure. But yeah, the 360 is my last Xbox console. I might buy this next one, who knows? Ever since all this craziness that happened with Ninja Gaiden and them never putting it on PC and not having a PC port for like the OG Ninja Gaiden Black or Ninja Gaiden 2 specifically, I've been like losing my mind. Like, man, am I really gonna buy an Xbox console just to play OG Ninja Gaiden 2? If I was rich, I would have done it by now. But we'll see what happens with this next console. We'll see. But for now, sticking with the 360. Alan Wake, Dead Space, two amazing memories. Just being like, wow, this is crazy. Like, this is absolutely phenomenal. And then that leads to yet another amazing, beautiful game that I absolutely love, and a full franchise, fortunately, and that's Bayonetta. Bayonetta was not 360 exclusive, but it did run better on the 360. That was kind of a thing during that era as well, where it would be like, unless it was like an actual PlayStation, like Sony production, a lot of times it was like, hey, it runs better on the 360. Like, it would just be like frame rate issues. So fortunately, I had the 360 version of Bayonetta because, of course, the PlayStation 3 was, $600 hitting your wallet right in the weak point. And so I didn't get it until the Slim came out. And I got Bayonetta, and I played through that game so much. So much. Like, it's ridiculous how many times, I played through that game. So, fantastic memories playing Bayonetta, and then playing it again and again and again, and playing it on like every single difficulty. Like, that's one of those games I was really close to having like the 1,000 gamer score. I never really cared much for that. Like, I've never been that person like, oh man, I gotta get this, get my trophy and this and that. Like, I've never personally cared about those. It's just like, okay, if I happen to be doing it, then sure, I happen to be doing it. But I never cared too much about that. Although I do believe, and I could be wrong about this, I think I might have 1,000 on Dead Space. Because Dead Space 1 and 2 are, like both those games, I went through like every single difficulty and did like every single thing because I just love that franchise so much. And I was super close in Alan Wake. I did everything except I missed, because you find pages of a book that he wrote, and I missed one page in the entire game, and I have no idea where it was at because you have to play on a harder difficulty to get like extra pages. And so I was doing that, and I was going through and I was finding like everything, and there's literally like one page that I missed, and I did not go back throughout the entire effing game just to figure out like, where is this single page that I'm missing. Although I think I know, I think if I went back to my 360, it would tell me like, you unlock them in order, so I think I'd know what level to go to. But I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna search for it. Like, once it gets to like, you missed that one thing, you're kind of just like, you know what? I wipe my hands of this. I'm done. I love the game and everything, and like I said, I'm not like obsessed with gamer score and getting all the trophies and stuff, so it didn't matter. I was like, yeah, I can't search for like one page, but I was super close, super duper close. But love those games, love Bayonetta, played the crap out of that, and then for some insane reason, Nintendo ended up saving that and making it an actual franchise, even though they don't do anything with it because they just re-release it and that's it. And I'm like, there's no merch for Bayonetta, and I don't know if there will ever be merch for the second or third game. Outside of like the limited stuff they probably already did when the games actually came out, I don't know if there's ever going to be anything else. Like, this year is actually the 15th anniversary of Bayonetta 1. And I was like, thank God, we finally got like an actual batch of merch. And then it's like, I wonder if we'll ever get anything for like the second and third game's anniversaries, because Nintendo's involved with that and they don't really do anything with it. So, I just gotta wait and see. I hope we get some Bayonetta 2 merch, especially because 2 is actually my favorite one. But I would love some more, even just Bayonetta 1 merch would be amazing. So looking forward to my 15th anniversary purchases that I made. But that was a good time. That was a great time during the 360 era. It was just having this amazing action game. And then another amazing action game by the same people, of course, was Metal Gear Rising. I love that game too. That game is so fun, and I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan. So going through that, and then this is after MGS4 came out and all that stuff. Even though technically I hadn't played the game, but I did watch my cousin play it, and of course I saw the scene with Raiden in it where he was just going crazy. Like, I still to this day remember seeing that for the first time and being like, this is like magic. This is amazing. Like, this is art. This is just beautiful. So, got Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. I forgot what the first title of that was. It was an even longer name, wasn't it, for the very first one? Or no, Revengeance was the thing. It was Metal Gear Rising Revengeance was the full title. And then they changed it to just Metal Gear Rising. Metal Gear Revengeance. I can't even remember what the name of the game is now, because I'm mixing myself up with what it used to be called and what it is now. Anyway, Metal Gear Rising? Yeah. We'll just go MGR. I know that's correct either way. So, love that game. Splitting people up all the time. It was definitely a really fun time. So, had a blast playing through that game. And I remember that was like my early days of starting to like record games. And I was trying to do some recordings of that. And I just remember having that footage. I'm sure it's gone. I don't think I ever ended up using anything. Maybe I did. You can probably check on my channel if you want to. I have no idea, if I'm being totally honest. But the 360 era was definitely when I like first got into starting to record games and just trying to figure that out. I had, for those of you who might remember this back in the olden times, I had the Hog capture system. Classic times. Just trying to get stuff and be like, let me record games, and how do you record stuff, and what apps do you use and things like that. Interesting, struggling times to record back then, for sure. Just being like, all right, this is how you do it. And then something goes wrong, and it's all brand new, and it's just crazy times. But recording on the 360 was when I like first started recording video games as well. Just like random stuff, like I want to use footage for this and that, and just kicking off that journey was kind of on the 360 as well. But one of the other big things that happened during the 360 era, and this is once again another franchise, another one that I love that is certainly dead and gone at this point, especially because the company more recently has actually disappeared. But Monolith Studios, they made 2 franchises that I loved. One of which never got to complete, which was Condemned. I love Condemned. Condemned Criminal Origins and Condemned 2, both fantastic games, even though they're vastly different, which I guess is kind of par for the course when it comes to Monolith horror games, because you could say the same thing for the Fear franchise. Like, each time you go through it, it's like, this is quite different than the last time you guys did it. If it was even though, it's like different people actually made some of the 3 different Fear games. But I love Condemned and Condemned 2. And I always wanted to Condemn 3. I was like, man, they ended on like an insane cliffhanger where like the president was involved in like some crazy demon stuff. And it's like, I can't wait to see this. And it never ended. That was the end. It ended, but not the way I thought it was going to, sadly. But I love Condemned Criminal Origins, and I love Condemned 2. Play both those games. Even though the second one does end on the cliffhanger, they're both still worth playing. They're both incredibly scary games and really unique and weird, because the whole point of those games is that you just have to kind of like fight to survive. So guns are kind of rare, but you can pick up like anything and everything to fight with. You can pick up pipes off the wall and take out like electrical wiring. You can use toilet seats. That was always like the big thing. Like, if that game came out today, the toilet seat thing would be such an insane meme. If that game was more popular, that would be such an insane meme. Like, you use toilet seats to fight in that game, and you really can. If you gotta survive. Like, you're fighting crackheads and demons, and like it's buck wild. That game is just insane. So highly recommend that game. Both of them, very fun games. And then, of course, the other side of things, and this was before they actually made Condemned, they made Fear. Fear is absolutely god tier. It's an amazing game. It was more PC than it was Xbox at the time. That was still during that era of like, hey, you get the PC version, it's still a bit better. It was definitely like made for PCs at the time, but they did a good job. Obviously I have the 360 version, so maybe I'm biased, but I still think they did a good job with the 360 version of it. Absolutely love that game. And then I have every Fear game. except for like the weird online thing that they did for like half a second. I have all the Fear games all on 360. I have Fear, Percy's, I think it's called Fear Files, and then it's Percy's Mandate, which is like a standalone game, and then it also had at the time they were expansion packs. This was before everything was just called DLC, but they were expansion packs. That's what they used to be called. And those were only on PC, so they're like, okay, well, we have the expansions on PC for the main game, but we also have this side story called Percy's Mandate. So for the 360 players, they're like, all right, well, we'll still give you both these things, but we'll make them their own game. So it was the Fear Files. And so they gave you the side game of Percy's Mandate, and then the expansion pack, which was the literal continuation of the original Fear game. Like, it was the DLC. So I got both of those, and then Fear 2 came out, and I'm one of the people, I actually like Fear 2 more than the first Fear. I know that is like nigh blasphemy, honestly. Like, there's a lot of people that like hate Fear 2. It was definitely an adjustment for sure, especially, visually. The same thing with Condemned 2. Like, the visuals were so different. It was like, oh, this just feels weird that it's the second game because it looks so different. But I love Fear 2. I thought it was a great game, and the story was actually really crazy too, especially because I feel like they put more of the story at the forefront. So I actually enjoyed it because it was just as chaotic as the first game, where it's just people being murdered all over the place, except you have more of an attachment to those people. Although I will say, for the first Fear game, those expansions really upset me, and I won't spoil some stuff, but it was like, okay. I wasn't too happy about that when I first played the Fear expansion packs. I was like, that is a bold decision that you just made, and I don't like that. But in Fear 2, it was like, all right, from the beginning, here's your whole crew, here's all the characters in the game, and here's like mysteries going on left and right, and then it's just chaos, and you're going throughout a city, and it's absolute pandemonium. And I love the second Fear game. I always thought it was really fun. And then Fear 3 came out, and I feel the same way as everybody else when it comes to Fear 3. I remember playing that game and just being straight up bored by the time I got to the end of it. And I was just going through just playing it just to beat it, and just being bored, where you're like, this isn't really fun. I don't really like the story. It doesn't really make a lot of sense why this is happening. Like, this character is supposed to be like dead 2 times over, and they kind of connected that a little bit with some DLC, and it's like, okay, story-wise, sure, but gameplay-wise, I was just like, man, this sucks. This really sucks. And then that was when they were doing the co-op thing. Everything had to have co-op. It effed up Fear 3. It effed up Dead Space 3. It was just like, good Lord. So that was an unfortunate ending when it comes to Fear. But for that game, I will say, it didn't introduce me to the song, but it made the song stick out more, because I already had Guitar Hero, so I already had the song. But the song Mother plays if you choose like one of the specific endings, because you get to pick what you want to do. And it just plays at the end. It's like, Mother. And I don't know why, but for some reason, out of all the things in Fear 3, that is the most memorable part. Every time I hear that song, I think of Fear 3. So that is, if there's anything, that's what that game did. It made me think, it just solidified my attachment to that song through Fear 3. And every time I hear that song, I'm like, Mother. And I just think of the weird ending to Fear 3. And I'm like, that's such an odd thing to look back on. Like, just, there's nothing else. All I have is just that song plays, because it only plays for one of the endings. And I think it's I can't remember if it's like the good ending or the bad ending. I think it's, I think it's the bad ending. They actually play that song, and I can't really remember. But either way, that's what stands out the most when it comes to Fear 3. It's just being like super bored, and then one of the endings has that song, and I'm just like, that's funny. That's just funny, and that's the weird attachment I have to Fear 3. Sadly, that's the only attachment I really have to Fear 3. I wish it was so much better, because I love that franchise so much, and then that was how it ended, and it was just like, wow, this is not good. Like, I'm sure it's one of those things where, like, if you play it co-op, I'm sure it's way more fun. If you play as Fettel, it's more fun because he's like a spirit character and stuff, and you can possess people and things. It's more entertaining for sure, but that doesn't excuse the fact that the game itself is still like extremely boring and just like, like, how did this happen? It's a very unfortunate and unsatisfactory ending to that franchise. But still, Fear as a whole, fantastic memory, all 360 era. The Orange Box, good Lord, that was a crazy thing. Here's 5 games in one. I hadn't played, well, I played Half-Life, a lot of multiplayer, specifically just me versus my cousin. And it was like, all right, you want to only use the crowbar? Yes. And it was hilarious. Just good times with that, where we would only fight with the crowbar, and it was the funniest thing in the world. So that all of my hours in Half-Life are spent solely on fighting my cousin and just using like one weapon at a time to be really dumb and silly. So good times with that. And then Half-Life 2 was amazing. Then of course, episode 1, episode 2, and nothing ever since. Horrible. But fantastic games. Love the Orange Box. Good time with Portal. Team Fortress 2, of course, which at this point is literally a free-to-play game, which is so funny. But that was a unique experience for sure. Marvel Ultimate Alliance was on the 360. I think that was like the first game I actually did have on the 360 was Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Now that I'm having like flashbacks of like the first time I kicked up my console. Yeah, Ultimate Alliance. Definitely a good time. Obviously, like, fantastic game. But there's tons and tons of stuff when it comes to the 360 because I had it for such a long time, tons of games. But of course, I do have to mention this, and this will be the ending because of course, everything else is just gonna be like, hey, I played this game and played that game. But the other final specific memory worth talking about is the fact that I did, even with the Xbox 360 Elite, experience the red ring of death. It happened, it was unfortunate, and for a minute there, I was out of luck. But my uncle, he made a phone call. He talked to them. He said, I don't know what he said because I called them and they were like, oh yeah, who knows? And I was like, what do you mean, who knows? And then he made a call and he was able to, I sent it in and they sent me an Xbox. It wasn't mine. I can tell you that. I don't know what happened. They couldn't fix it. And my old Xbox 360 Elite, it's lost to time. And it wasn't the same. And I knew it wasn't the same when I got it back because I was missing one of my little rubber stoppers on the bottom and it came back and I was like, you're not the same. But you play games and we good. So I got a new one and everything was fine and I haven't had any problems since. Obviously, I haven't touched my 360 in 100 million years. It is one of the few consoles I do have set under my TV, even though it's not hooked up. It's not like stashed away in its box. It's still sitting out. But good times with the 360. Definitely some good times. I even played Fear online. For Fear 2, I did play online for that for like half a second. Modern Warfare, played online for a little bit. Definitely love that game. I remember that as a specific memory. Just seeing that game at E3 and remembering seeing those graphics for the first time for Modern Warfare 2 was like a holy crap moment. And I still think that's one of my favorite like E3 moments and just being like, whoa, once again, graphics, art. So Modern Warfare 2, I guess that'll be a good ending because of course everyone has Modern Warfare. But we'd love to know your thoughts on the 360, your old memories, good and bad. If you had the original, did you deal with, the red ring of death, of course, like a lot of people. Even with the Elite, I got hit with it. That's just my unfortunate lot in life. The worst of things randomly happen. But the 360, it was definitely a fun era. I did not own Gears of War, but I did play it. I played 1 and 2. I have still yet to play 3. I know what happens. Sadly, of course, things happen. But played 1 and 2. One day I'll play through all those games. If they would put them all online, I would have bought them. And who knows, with the way Xbox is going now, I might end up playing them all on PlayStation. Who the F knows? It's crazy times right now. But I would love to know your 360 memories and thoughts. Halo, I guess I should reference. I barely ever played Halo. I didn't even play Halo really until Halo Infinite came out, and that was only because I was playing the multiplayer. So I've never really played through much Halo. I played a bit of Halo 1 and 2. And other than that, I would always pick up the demos here and there just to play around with them. Never bought a Halo game. So Halo is not really in my life that much. Gears was in my life a bit, but not to like an insane extent. So just to throw those out there because those are like, the big ones when it comes to Xbox. But those are, I think that's a good breadth of my time with the 360. And then of course, all the other random games that I bought and played. And I did scratch up one game, Naruto Broken Bond. I did scratch that up, got a replacement. Totally lied and said something. They gave me a replacement disc, but I definitely screwed that up. I moved the Xbox. Remember that? Don't move the Xbox or it will literally scratch your whole disc up. That happened to me one time only. But want to know your thoughts, memories, good and bad, when it comes to the Xbox 360. Where do you guys think Xbox is right now? How are you feeling about that? For me, like I said, the 360 is the last console that I ever owned for Xbox. It might not be the last one ever, but it's the last one currently. So I would love to know your thoughts if you're more on the Xbox side of things and you've kept up with the consoles where it's at right now, your thoughts with the 360, good and bad, all those things. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.